All right. Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast. We are your weekly look into the wide, wacky, wonderful world of mixed martial arts. My name is Robert Winfrey, and I am your host. What do we got tonight? You know what? I actually have to open with a correction. See, last week when I was talking, did the review for UFC 230, 320. Keep transposing those in my head. Did the review for UFC 320, talking about what Alex Pereira accomplished by being a two-weight world champion, then losing and regaining one of those belts, and the rare company that puts him in. I said GSP didn't do that. I was mistaken. I am prone to forgetting that he lost to Matt Serra and then regained the belt. Somewhere in my head, that loss to Matt Serra is like pre-title win, which is stupid because it isn't. Uh, it diminishes Matt Serra when I don't get that wrong, and diminishes GSP. So I got that one wrong. He did it. It's a very, very short list of people that have done that. It's like Nunes, GSP, John Jones, Randy Couture, and Alex Pereira. I think it's the only people that have done that in the UFC. So got that one wrong. My mistake. Consider this a correction. Okay. Had a big bold note on that for my production stuff here. You got that wrong. Correct it. So what do we got? Beyond that, we will be reviewing UFC on ESPN Plus 119, UFC's return to Rio de Janeiro. If I put on a really bad Brazilian accent, that turns into Rio de Janeiro. Um, God, that was bad. Sorry. That might have offended someone. Like my Brazilian accent needs work. Anyway, so we'll be reviewing that card. Not a lot there. Some, not a lot. We will preview UFC on ESPN Plus 120. That is in Toronto. That's the one headlined by Reiner de Ridder and Brendan Allen. So we'll give that a look. And we'll talk news. Not a lot of news. Been a really, I don't know. They're sitting on like the last end of year announcements as well as like the start of 2026. So there's a lot of fighters that we're kind of just waiting because some of them are going to be saved for like the UFC tries to do a fairly important fight for their uh, debut whenever they change networks. You know, they did that with Fox. They threw Kane and JDS on Fox for their first fight with the first event with them. When they moved to ESPN, they did. Oh, which one was it? Was that Cejudo and Dillashaw? I think that's the one they went with. I know Dillashaw was involved, and I think that was when he cut down to 125 very inadvisably and lost to Henry Cejudo. Um, so big, relevant kind of fight. So there's a decent chance that we're waiting to see between like Ilia Topuria, maybe Alex Pereira. We're not sure about the exact timing on that, but there's a few fights out there floating in the ether that we're kind of waiting on the full announcement of to because they're gonna try and do something fairly significant for that. Um, but not a lot of news. So I think we got some stuff for the UFC White House that we'll talk a little bit about. So that's, you know what, I'll save it for when I get to it. I'll save it for when I get to it. All right. So that's kind of what we got on the agenda. Anything you can do to interact with the product is always appreciated. Like, comment, subscribe, star rating, written review. Y'all know the drill as far as that goes. Really, I'm just glad you listen. So thank you for listening. It's the most important thing. And clear that out. Okay. Let's get into the show. So, UFC on ESPN Plus 119. How did we do prediction wise? Not too bad. 9 and 3. Um, okay. I couldn't remember which of the fights that I asterisked that I said I was just going to go with the favorite on fight night. I want to say it was Pinto and Janice, but it might have been Filio and Carpenter. So I couldn't remember which one. And consequently, I let him ride and didn't allow my kind of compensation for that was the closer we got to this fight, the more I started leaning to the co-main, the more I started thinking, Figueiredo, Figueiredo might still have something, and Jackson, well, we'll get to it when we get to it, but because partially because the other two wound up being correct, I just kind of sat on that Jackson pick, and because I couldn't remember, because if it was Janice, then I should have changed that pick, and it would have been wrong. As I didn't, I need to put another kind of notation on that. So, point being, I just kind of let the co-main ride as well. I didn't I didn't change anything actually. No, I didn't. So partially because I couldn't remember which one of those I'd put that caveat on, I just let everything I'd made ride. So that's where that one landed. So 9-3. 9-3 is respectable. Year to date, that's 3-10, 101, 2, and 2 no contests. We did have some weirdness on this card. We lost the fight between Walter Walker and Muhammad Usman. Walker got pissed because apparently he wasn't told why, and then it came out that Usman had a drug test issue. Color me shocked. More shocked that Kamaru Usman never popped, but that's a whole other thing. So yeah, that didn't happen. Simon Oliveira missed weight real bad. Dude weighed 144. Come on, man. At that point, are you even trying? There was at least one of these fights that shouldn't have gone forward. Yeah, Almeida and Aswell. If you look at the weigh-in photo for Almeida, this is Lucas Almeida. All right, Lucas. There's too many Almeidas. Yeah, Lucas Almeida. His right hand is a balloon. His right hand was pretty obviously broken or injured in some capacity, and he fought like total crap. I might have to institute a sort of generalized caveat to my predictions where if something like that becomes evident, like during the lead up, I'm allowed to change my mind, to change the official prediction, because I would have swapped that. Like looking at his hand, like, ooh, no, that would have changed that absolutely, because fighting with a broken hand is a real bad idea. Shock of shocks. Um, it's close enough to the end of 2025 that when I start doing like I might apply something like that to 2026. Like if there's like a visible issue that I can draw, that I can point out, as far as like the health of a fighter that comes to attention during fight week, like, oh no, look, that's a giant staph infection, or, look at that, his hand's swollen, pretty badly broken. Like that should be grounds for me to change, but we might implement that for 2026. Okay, everything else. Were there any of those I felt good about picking? So hang on, what did I get wrong? Let's start there. Got the co-main event wrong. Got Offley and Hamos wrong. More on that later. Some of that bothered me. And hang on, so co-main, Offley. Oh yeah, Aswell over Almeida. Those are the three I got wrong. As far as feeling good about any of those picks, Pinto. I'm gonna feel good about picking Pinto. I know kind of how I got there was not like through the brilliance of my analysis, but I feel good about landing on the right one there. Um, maybe Filio? Uh, yeah, maybe that one. Kind of forgot I picked Lewis Hocha over Nickel. That's why I do the. It's why I make sure to write these things down. It's like some of these I can't remember which way I picked. So none of those I feel like super great about. Yes, clearly that was just really good work on my part. Just yeah, none of those this time around. All right. As for the fights themselves, in the main event, Charles Oliveira defeats Mateusz Gamrot with a rear naked choke slash face crank. This is more of a choke, the choke version of a face crank, because there's two different things there. 2:48 of the second. Pretty standard Charles Oliveira performance. Um, his clinch work is still real good. He's happy to give up when you enter into a clinch with him. He actually goes to an overhook, and then when the angle presents itself, he switches that overhook into a collar tie very quickly. It opens up knees and elbows. He'll like start with the overhook, throw a knee, and then as you try to retract, collar tie with the overhook, elbow with the free hand. Nice stuff. He does that a fair bit. That's not new tech from him, but it's good. He's got a weird. It's not weird. Weird's the wrong word for it. He's got a way of attacking the dogfight position, um, which is usually comes about when you go on for like an inside trip or something or an off balance and one guy's got a whizzer. You see this all the time briefly in MMA where somebody has a whizzer, they start to go down, their other shoulder turns so they don't land on their back. They're trying to go down more front, and because they've got a tight whizzer, you can kind of crank that and both guys wind up facing the mat. Again, it's kind of called the dog fight because you still got to keep going from there. Um, and different guys have different systems from there. What Oliveira does and did a couple of times this time, because Gamrot does a lot of that whizzer work. He didn't want to play with it, so he did kind of an amateur wrestling thing. Who did he say? Because Jack Slack talked about this. I think he said like if you watch like Iranian amateur wrestlers, they do this a lot. They will circle. They won't circle around towards the head to get to the other side. They will circle around the back, and it kind of messes with the whizzer. And depending on how tight it is in the arm position, it can actually like mess up the guy's arm. But he did that a couple of times to Gamrot, and it's a good way of neutralizing that position, getting to a better one, and then getting to work from there. Oliveira's jiu-jitsu is always just really, really, really good. Uh, yeah, not a lot more to say than that. Gamrot, really unfortunate loss. I know he took it on short notice, but his lack of punching power is a real problem at this point. Because he hit Charles Oliveira fairly cleanly. Oliveira's defense is, I'm not going to say bad, but his fighting style accepts an amount of risk in terms of offense coming at him that he simply tries to move through. And it's gotten him in trouble a fair amount in the past. Even in fights he's won, it's gotten him in trouble getting hit, getting hurt. And he got hit more than once here by Gamrot, but Gamrot's lack of power meant Oliveira just straight up ignored it, basically. Just didn't care, kept going. That's a real problem for Gamrot that he needs to address. Yeah, Oliveira after the fight called for a BMF fight with Max Holloway. I'm down. I was very much hyped up for their first fight. Now this was years ago. In fact, how many years ago in particular? Probably perilously close to like 8. Longer than that, it was 10. Over 10 years ago. It was August of 15. He and Max Holloway fought in Saskatoon, believe it or not, as the main event. And minute and 39 seconds into the first round, Oliveira kind of collapses against the fence. He had a neck injury. And the fight never really got going. Just that was again when they were both at featherweight during Oliveira's. His time at featherweight is such a weird thing if you look at his career, but that's another issue. But a rematch now, yeah, sign me up. Like Max's chances in that. I liked his chances the first time they fought. I still like him now. But who in the world would complain about that fight, you know? For Gamrot, I don't know. This is a pretty bad loss. I don't mean like, it's not because, oh no, you lost to Charles Oliveira. It's not that losing to Oliveira is some death sentence, because Oliveira is really, really good. But a bit of the way he lost and a bit of the way he struggled the last several fights. People are starting to figure him out. That doesn't mean he can't win, doesn't mean he's not a good fighter, because he can and he is. But without some fairly substantive alterations, I shouldn't say alterations. There's some adjustments and tweaks he needs to make to his game to really break through to the top. And it's lightweight, so that's really hard. He has my sympathies about that, but his skill set as is will not get him to the belt. That's fairly well demonstrated at this point. Co-main event, Davison Figueiredo defeated Montel Jackson via split decision, 29-28. This fight sucked. Man, I need to make sure and remember the next time I have to talk about Montel Jackson. He's got fairly quick hands. He's got good power. But man alive, does he just bleed time. He is profoundly inactive. Low activity fighter. Figueiredo just kind of outworked him rounds 2 and 3. I think I scored this for Jackson, in full disclosure. I can't remember how I scored it. But round 2 is the swing round. Round 1 pretty clearly goes to Jackson. Round 3 pretty clearly goes to Figueiredo. But yeah, not a very interesting fight. Not a whole lot to say. I think the only thing of note here was Figueiredo after the fight said he wants to fight Merab. Apparently he said it in much stronger language than the translator indicated. Now this was not Fabiano. This was the other Spanish and Portuguese translator, and that guy has a habit of... I shouldn't say a habit. When it comes to translating, there's some different philosophies at play, believe it or not. Do you want to just convey the sentiment? Do you do any editing? How do you edit different things? Some that are language or region sort of specific. Stuff like that. So translation is not an easy job. I don't pretend that it is, but he definitely cut some corners for more than just Figueiredo on this night. But for him, in particular, sorry. That's how bad the fight was. Even remembering it, I started yawning. Yeah, not a lot else to say. Figueiredo's a fair bit away from a title shot. He's old, especially by bantamweight standards. He's had injuries. You know, bless him for still doing stuff, but if he winds up getting a shot, it's going to be just because Merab has beaten everyone else. Welterweight next, Joel Alvarez defeated Vicente Luque. What a... Oy. Unanimous decision, 30-26. across the board. So this fight should have been stopped more than once for more than one reason. Jeez. So first round, for a lot of it, it's a little bit back and forth. Alvarez does pretty good work. Both guys do a lot of work with the lead hand. Alvarez starts showing knees a little bit. Then Alvarez hits Luque with a left hook. And the knuckle of his thumb hits Luque's right eye. And Luque immediately backs up, covers his eye, signals to the ref like, hey, my eye, and then he kind of sinks down. And the ref pauses the action because he might have got poked in the eye. Then we look at the replay. The replay shows very, very clearly it was a punch. Perfectly legal blow. You can punch someone in the eye. This isn't complicated. You can't extend fingers, but if you've got a closed fist, well, if the knuckles go into the eye, the knuckles go into the eye. It doesn't happen very often for a lot of reasons, but that is a perfectly legal blow. At which point, the only thing the ref could have done was either wave the fight off because of how Luque went down, or just grab Luque and go, can you fight? It was a legal blow. Yes? Okay, we're back to fighting. Instead, that timeout dragged on. He called the doctor in to look at Luque's eye, and just terribly handled. They finish out the round. Round 2 is a 10-8, a universal 10-8. Alvarez beats the crap out of Luque, and at various points, Luque is just kind of covering up. Most refs, at a few different points in this, would have looked at this fight and given a mercy stoppage that would have been totally understandable. No, not this ref. This was Osiris Maya, actually. Does not. Just lets Vicente Luque get beat up. Then, between rounds 2 and 3, Luque, physically battered at this point, tells his coach, he still trains with, they changed their name. The heck are they now? Oh, why can't I remember? Because they used to kind of be called the Black Zillions. Killcliff, that's right, Killcliff MMA. And Henry Hooft is the head coach, and he tells Henry Hooft, I can't win. And Henry Hooft just says, tough rocks, get out there and fight. The third round is a giant nothing burger, but it's another round that Alvarez wins. He just kind of feels bad for Luque, I think, and just doesn't want to hurt him anymore. So the corner should have stopped it. And didn't, because MMA corners are what they are. Cornering in MMA is such crap. It is an ethical disaster, the way they handle it. Just terrible. Zero regard for the safety and well-being of their fighters. Zero. Some of which the fighters themselves, instigate. I think it was Anthony Smith who said, anybody who throws the towel in for me isn't going to be my coach anymore. I'm going to fire him. My man, that's their job. Part of their job is to look out for you like that. And no, let my teeth get knocked out. Let me just suffer more CTEs. It'll be fine. Trust me. I hate so much about all of that. So that was when it should have been stopped. So this was... Dude, Luque shouldn't be fighting anymore, man. He had that loss to Jeff Neal, after which he had a brain bleed that was life-threatening. And we're still trotting him out at this point. Man, I remember Luque's run when he was really good. He actually couldn't... I think he got the short end of the stick in some respects, because... So he loses his UFC debut, then he wins 4 in a row. Hayder Hassan, Alvaro Herrera, Hector Urbina, and Bilal Muhammad. He stops Bilal Muhammad, by the way, in 1 minute and 19 seconds, knocks him out. Loses a decision to Leon Edwards, and then goes on this like 8-fight winning streak. 6, sorry. Nico Price, Chad Laprise, Jalen Turner, Brian Barberena, Derek Krantz, and Mike Perry. The Mike Perry one went to a decision. That's the fight of the night. I think he's the one who badly shattered Perry's nose too. The rest of those were all finishes. Then he loses to Stephen Thompson. Once again, no real shame there. Then he wins 4 more in a row. Nico Price, Randy Brown, Tyron Woodley, Chiesa. Then he loses the rematch to Bilal Muhammad over 5 rounds, and then he has the Jeff Neal fight, and that's the one that should have just kind of been it. We shouldn't be doing this anymore with him. But I remember him on his runs. After a couple of those fights, you were like, man, he really looks good. He should be taking the next step up. And then could almost, when he fought Leon Edwards, you might be thinking, this is 2017 though. Leon Edwards is, I think, barely ranked. That was 2 guys that were seen as on the come up. His big break was supposed to be the fight with Stephen Thompson, because Thompson in 2019 was still fairly highly ranked. This guy ground his way into the rankings, fighting a lot of unranked guys, because a lot of the guys ranked above him weren't interested in fighting him, because a lot of the times when they took those fights, they came up short. So it felt real bad for him in some of those times, man, because he deserved more opportunities than he got. But we're at a point where he does not need to be fighting anymore. In fact, it is probably to his benefit to stop fighting. So there's that. I don't know if Alvarez will stay at welterweight. He's big. I mean, he's 6'3". But looking at him next to Price, you can see, especially the torso thickness. Luque's never going to make 155. Alvarez, if he really wants to make a go of welterweight, he needs to bulk up. That said, he's had some real struggles making lightweight. He can, but he's had several fights fall out due to weight issues. So I don't know exactly what is going to be up with him next, but there's a few things he does need to alter a bit, I think, if he wants to really make a go of welterweight. So just stuff to think about there. At heavyweight, Mario Pinto defeated Jonata Janice via TKO, punches, elbows, whatnot, from top position, 4:10 of the second. Quick takedown from Pinto in the first, quick takedown from him in the second. Janice off his back is kind of helpless. Best thing about this fight was the post-fight thing where Pinto tells Michael Bisping at one point, I don't speak English. He's speaking Portuguese because he is Portuguese. He's not Brazilian, actual Portuguese. And then he says, I'm going to say in English now, I'm sorry for my English, and then goes into perfect English, like a London accent. I know London has different accents depending on where you are, but British. And Bisping's face that whole time is genuinely hilarious. But no, he's trained in London for 10 years, maybe more. So yeah, he actually speaks fluent English. And yeah, just funny. So, you know what? Heavyweight is in dire need of people to be excited about. He might qualify. Featherweight next, Con Offley defeated Ricardo Ramos via rear naked choke, 302 of the first. A lot of this, man, if you can do what Offley got away with here, then what are we even doing here? I mean, so much fence grabbing. So much fence grabbing. And not even accidental. I mean, at a few different points, Offley just grabs the fence and pulls himself into a better position. It's how he got the back that led to the finish. And the referee never even said anything. Guys, if you're fighting, what is the incentive to follow the foul structure? Like, why would you not grab the fence? Why would you not poke someone in the eye? Why would you not kick them in the groin? About the only thing that actually consistently gets called is kicking or kneeing someone in the head when they're on the ground. That's it. Okay, you can't. Minor correction. If you foul, if you bite, biting will get you. Biting will get you complicated. But I mean, headbutts don't always get called. Very rarely. Um, so that doesn't get called. Eye gouging is iffy on the call. Hitting in the back of the head is basically not a thing they care about. I mean, I could go on. Like, there is no reason to fight according to the agreed upon terms of combat because there is no enforcement of the fouls. None. The absolute state of officiating in MMA is pathetic. So that was your main card on the prelims. Michael Aswell bulldozes Lucas Almeida, 142 of the first. Lucas Almeida shouldn't have been fighting, and it looks like he had a broken hand. Aswell just beat the crap out of him. Jafel Filio defeated Clayton Carpenter with a Kimura, 442 of the first. Nice, better grappling from Filio. Nice little Kimura trap from bottom, rolls through, gets the tap. Filio's game still leaves me to question how he holds up because his big thing is that he slows down in rounds 2 and 3 pretty noticeably. He's dangerous. You can't sleep on it, and especially in the first round. But I need to see that guy more consistently be able to hold up under a full fight. Heavyweights, Vitor Petrino knocked out Thomas Peterson 26 seconds into the third round. Pretty bad fight. But the knockout was good. He hits him with a right uppercut, left hook, and the way Peterson falls, he kind of does the worm. It's genuinely kind of fun. Like, the fight itself is terrible. Look up the knockout, though, because the way he falls is almost an all-timer. Bia Mesquita defeated Elena Alexeva via submission, rear naked choke, 2:14 of the second. This was a squash match. If you're not familiar with Bia Mesquita, one of the best female jiu-jitsu practitioners ever. I mean, she left competition jiu-jitsu because she was no longer the best. I think it was after she lost a couple of matches with Fionn Davis at ADCC. But if you look at her run, like, there's a period of, like, what, 9? It's more than 10, I think. It's almost 10. Yeah, from 2012 to 2021, she's the world champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. No, not 17. 16, 18, 19, and not 20. They didn't have them in 2020, but then in 21. Yeah, she's really, really good. She won ADCC in 17. She medaled in 22 and 24. Ridiculous legacy of really, really good jiu-jitsu competition. And she just, again, bulldozed Alexeva. Got a fairly quick takedown. Her takedown game actually looks okay. Got to full mount with ease, beat up Alexeva, got her in the gift wrap position for a embarrassingly long period of time. Second round, more of the same. Gets the back this time, though, and then just it's academic from there. Women's bantamweight desperately needs help. Now look, this was a squash match. You can only learn so much from that. So I am not going to immediately declare her like the savior of the division. She beat someone who's like who was 1-2 in the UFC coming into this. Need to see how she does against people better, but squash matches also serve their place and have their place and serve a purpose. So, flyweight Louis Hocha defeated Stuart Nickel via unanimous decision, 30-27 across the boards. Nickel just couldn't get his grappling game going, and Hocha just beat him up. Strawweight Julia Palastri defeats Karolina Kowalkiewicz via TKO, head kick and punches, 2:56 in the third. Kowalkiewicz probably should just about be done by now. She's got okay kicks, but her punching is just not good. Her defense while punching is not good. I mean, her biggest strength used to be, believe it or not, knees in the clinch. That's where she battered Rose. First time they fought, maybe the only time they fought. Rose has a good first round, then like into the second gets clinched, and Kowalkiewicz spends a little bit of time just kneeing the crap out of her body, and Rose is never the same after that. And Kowalkiewicz winds up taking rounds 2 and 3. This one, she just got outstruck, got hurt multiple times. Like, I don't know what we're still doing here with her. And kicking everything off, Luan Lacerda defeated Simon Oliveira via armbar, 3:55 of the second. Yeah, again, Oliveira badly missed weight. Weighed 144 for a bantamweight fight. I mean, seriously. Lacerda just kept a good pace on him, good body work. Had his back for a big chunk of the first. In the second, Oliveira gets on top, but gets armbarred from there. Really nasty armbar too. Like, Lacerda really cranked on that thing. Yeah, that was it. So, if you're a fan of Charles Oliveira, the main event's pretty good. Other than that, it's worth looking up. Bia Mesquita's performance, again, it's a squash, but if you've never seen her, at least take the introduction. Filio and Carpenter was okay for as long as it lasted, too. That's about it. There was no fight of the night. You may have picked up on that. As far as performances go, they went to Oliveira, Petrino, Mesquita, and Palastri. Yeah, that's about right. Petrino's fight was so bad, but the knockout itself was good, so I understand it. Yeah, full report, MMA Zone of 411mania.com. Y'all know where to find that, as always. Thank you very much. I appreciate the fact that anyone reads what I do, so thank you. Okay, there you are. So let's move on then, shall we, to UFC on ESPN Plus 120. As previously mentioned, that will be taking place at the Rogers Arena in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, this coming Saturday. And you know what? This is not a bad card. It's not great. Be very clear about that. This is not great. But it's okay. So, in the main event, Reiner de Ridder was supposed to fight fluffy Anthony Hernandez. That fell apart. Anthony Hernandez has a weird history of having those kinds of issues, which is really unfortunate because Hernandez and de Ridder were going to be fighting for potentially a title shot. Now de Ridder's fighting a guy who is outside the title picture. So even if Allen wins, he's not going to leapfrog. Why am I blanking on his name? I'm going to have to look it up, and I'm going to feel real bad about that. Imavov. See? Do feel bad about that. A win for Allen will not leapfrog Imavov. If de Ridder does something spectacular, he might. But all in all, I think when Hernandez fell out of this fight, that really did kind of clear the way for Imavov after his win over Bahalio to be the next guy for the title shot. Um, Brendan Allen is a solid replacement. It's not as good a fight, just straight up. But it's a good fight. Allen is not afraid to grapple with people like de Ridder, so he probably will. Um, Allen's gas tank is still a little bit of an issue. That that's been a problem for him. He does kind of get worn down. De Ridder doesn't have the same pace that Hernandez does or some of those other guys. Because who else is taking advantage of that? Imavov did. That was only over 3 rounds. He should have lost that Chris Curtis rematch. My opinion, I scored that for Curtis. But Allen is good. I mean, he's got a very winning UFC record. He's certainly not a bad fighter. I think this is a tough stylistic matchup for him. There's going to be a fair amount of grappling. De Ridder's intercepting knees have become a real weapon of his. That's kind of what he used to wear down Whitaker. I know he battered Bo Nickel with them and other body shots, but the fact that it worked on Bobby Knuckles is kind of a telling thing about that those knee strikes are actually a weapon for him. And guys with some with Allen's, I hate to say that. I'm trying to figure out the right way to say this because it's not like he's chinny. He's not chinny, but once real how do I phrase this? Because on occasion he'll mount a comeback from being down. It's not like he's just a front runner, but if you can actually put damage on him, it does kind of wear on him more than other people, more than some other people. I should qualify that properly. And I think de Ridder is going to be able to attrit him in that kind of fashion. Expect a lot of clinching, some fun grappling exchanges, but I was gonna favor Hernandez over de Ridder, I think, but I'm okay picking de Ridder here. Respect to Allen for taking the fight. I think it'll be a good fight, but this is a pretty tough matchup for him. Co-main event: Kevin Holland and Mike Malott. Kevin Holland at welterweight that's probably his better weight class. The odds are with Malott. Holland can be out-grappled, and that's kind of all Mike Malott does. A lot of the takedown game, but Malott also will wear down a little bit, like the Magny loss. He bounced back from that okay, beating Giles and Radke, but Holland is a step up from those two gentlemen. More in line with Neil Magny, but hits a lot harder. He's coming off the loss to Daniel Rodriguez. Before that, he'd beaten Nelson and Luque. It's a close fight on the odds. I don't know that I can pick Kevin Holland. It's kind of my problem here. He's so inconsistent. When he's on, the best, even the upper end of better versions of Kevin Holland, this is a very winnable fight for him. But if he shows up and is in different condition, not quite so much. I'm still gonna go with Holland. I'm also not sold on him a lot. But that's a close one. That one could absolutely go either way. Bantamweight next, Marlon Vera and Ayman Zahabi. Jeez. So Cheeto, what's Cheeto been up to? 2-fight losing streak. Lost his title fight with Sean O'Malley. Lost to Davison Figueiredo. Okay, so he's 1-3 in his last 4. The losses are to Corey Sandhagen and the aforementioned, as well as O'Malley and Figgy. Okay, those are, upper end names in the division, so I'm not too mad at him. Zahabi hasn't lost since 19. He's on a pretty good winning streak. Oh, golly, that went over Aldo bothers me for reasons. That's a whole other thing. I don't know, man. Look, Cheeto is a dangerous fighter he absolutely has finishing capabilities, insanely durable. He's also prone to just like not fighting for long stretches of a bout. And that's a bad way to try and fight Ayman Zahabi because he'll let you do that and just do enough to win rounds. I can easily see this one getting away from Vera. Yeah, I'm going to go with Zahabi. He's a slight favorite, all right. Okay, next up, Manon Fior and Jasmine Jasdavicius. Manon Fior coming off of her loss to Valentina Shev. No, she bounced back after the loss to Shevchenko, right? No, that was her last fight. Okay. She made a good account of herself. I think I actually scored that for her in real time. Jasdavicius on a good winning streak. Fior might be the. I still think Fior probably winds up holding that belt at some point. So I'm going with her. Like she didn't fight badly against Shevchenko at all. Bantamweights: Cody Gibson and Richie Long. Gibson has not done great since returning to the UFC. He's just 2-3, losses to Brad Katona, Miles Johns, and most recently Damon Blackshear. He has wins over Brian Kelleher and Chad Unhelliger in that stretch. And there's Richie Long, who's coming off a loss to Raul Rosas Jr. That was over a year ago, though, September of last year. His last win was beating Johnny Munoz in October of 23. So the man hasn't won a fight in over 2 years. That's a tough one. Odds are a little bit with Gibson. I completely understand that. I'm going to asterisk this one. Let me go with Gibson, mostly because he's the favorite as I'm recording this, but I got to look at a couple of things there. Because Richie Long always kind of sneaks up on me. When I watch him fight, there's a thing there. I occasionally misremember his fights, confuse them with, who's the other Chinese guy? His name escapes me. That's probably why I confuse them. It's also late as I'm doing this, and my last 3-4 days have been pretty terrible. Pretty terrible. I've been riddled with stress, insomnia, and other mental health issues, so that's been fun. So I can't remember that. Just forgive me and bear with me. And kicking off the main card, this is a good fight. This will circle this one potentially. Kyle Nelson and Matt Frivola. Nelson coming off a loss to Steve Garcia. He'd won 3 in a row before that. None of them super impressive, but... And Frivola, the Steamroller. 2-fight losing streak. Knocked out by Benoit Saint-Denis. Knocked out by Fares Ziam. Matt Nelson, due respect, is not Benoit Saint-Denis or Fares Ziam. I'm okay leaning toward... Nelson also... Another guy who kind of wears down over a fight. He's a big guy for the weight class. That weight cut is a tough one for him, I think. But I'm okay going with Frivola here. I think he'll get back on the winning side of things. All right, on the prelims, Charles Jourdain and Davy Grant. That's a pretty good fight. My inclination is to pick Grant just because it is funny. The odds are with Jourdain. I am going to pick Grant because it's funny. I also haven't picked an underdog yet, I don't think officially, and yeah, again, that one just kind of amuses me. I'm prepared to be very wrong about that one, but also, full disclosure, I am recording this at like 3:30 in the morning. So, for the record, I am reserving the right to change a lot of these picks, even if I don't asterisk them, just because I'm a little sleep deprived. So I may wake up after a full night's rest and go, what the hell were you thinking, sir? Flyweight next, Bruno Silva and Hyun-Sung Park. Silva, 2-fight losing streak to Manel Kopp and Joshua Van. Stopped in both of those. That Kopp one was weird. The Van one was very legit, though. And Hyun-Sung Park, peace of mind. Coming off the loss to Tatsuro Taira. He took that on short notice, if memory serves, and that was inadvisable. Yeah, Park was supposed to... He initially stepped in to face Steve Erceg at one point, and then Erceg got bumped. That fight got moved around. That was a whole thing. Park's pretty good. Silva's not bad. Very clear about that. Silva's not bad, but I'm willing to go with Park here. I'll take a flyer on that potentially. No, the odds are with Park. Not taking a flyer at that point. Okay. Middleweights, Danny Barlow and Jordan Ribeiro dos Santos. Let me have a quick look at these two. Alrighty. So Barlow is 9-1. I believe this is his UFC. No, this isn't left-hand. This is left-hand to God. He lost his UFC debut. He's 2-1 in the UFC. Okay, hang on. He beat Josh Quinlan. He missed weight and then barely got by Nikolai Veretennikov, and then Sam Patterson beat him pretty thoroughly. Santos, 10-2. Lost his UFC debut to Ozzy Diaz. That is not exactly encouraging, is it? I don't know. Barlow also, though, is, kind of not proven to be anything super special. Yeah, the odds are with Barlow. I'm going to respect that. Because I don't have any good reason to disagree with the odds. Kyle Prepolek will fight Drew Dober next. So Prepolek got beat by Benoit Saint-Denis his last time out. That was his return to the UFC. So he has like 4th stint. So he's in his 2nd. So he originally comes to the UFC in 2019, loses twice and gets cut, then returns in May of this year, and Benoit Saint-Denis beats him, I think, on relatively short notice. So there's that. And then Dober. Dober's in a rough patch, man. He's 1-4 in his last 5. Lost to Matt Frivola, beat Ricky Glenn. Lost to Moicano, lost to Gian Silva, lost to Manuel Torres. If he can't get it done here, that boy's got problems. I'm going to pick him. He's a big favorite too, jeez. But he really he's got to get that sorted out, man. 'Cause he's in a rough patch. Strawweight next, Stephanie Luciano and Havena Oliveira. Is that Amanda? She goes by. Nope, different girl. Let's see. Luciano, 6-2-1, 1-1 in the UFC. Beat Talita Alankar and then lost to Sam Hughes. Oliveira, 7-2-1. Lost her UFC debut against Tainara Lisboa. Well, Lisboa's actually a decent fighter. Where are the odds? The odds are with Luciano. I'm going to asterisk this one. But I will respect the odds at the moment. Middleweight next, Azamat Bakoev and Yorsi Belgori. So Bakoev, 2-0 in the UFC. He's on a pretty good winning streak, actually. 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 8-fight winning streak. 2 fights in the UFC, 2 stoppage wins in the first round. Bakoev's pretty legit. And Belgori, I may be mispronouncing that gentleman's last. Oh, he's from the Netherlands. I am certainly mispronouncing it. He is coming off of a Contender Series win, and this is his UFC debut. Feel like this is a Bakoev pick without too much hesitation. Yeah. And kicking everything off at women's bantamweight, Melissa Croden and Tainara Lisboa, who we mentioned a little bit earlier. Close fight. The odds are with Lisboa. So Croden is coming into her nickname is Scare. So it's Scare Croden. Funny. Okay, that's how I know I'm tired. I'm chuckling at punny nicknames. She's 6-2. This is her UFC debut. Coming in on a 2-fight winning streak. Her most recent loss was to Jacqueline Cavalcante, who's turned out to be pretty good. Lisboa, 7-3, 2-1 in the UFC, coming off a loss to Luana Santos. I was confusing her with someone else when I said I thought she was good. Because she got Americana'd by Luana Santos. And I vaguely remember that because getting it with an Americana these days. If you get an Americana'd at the UFC level, that's a problem. All right. The odds are with Lisboa slightly. I'll respect that. But mostly on principle. All right, and that is it. That's UFC on ESPN Plus 120 Saturday. MMA Zone of 411mania.com. I will have coverage per usual. That's what I usually do. Alrighty. That's it for the preview. Let's hit the news real fast. Then I need sleep. I am very tired. So let's talk about the UFC White House stuff. So we got a secured date for it. It will not be the week of July 4th. It will be June 28th? Might have been 14th. It was earlier than that. Yeah, June 14th, which is Donald Trump's birthday. Okay. Look, most sporting events, especially something like MMA, I don't think has anything to do with actually celebrating the relevant birthday for the country. But I was willing to kind of go along with it. It's still relatively close. It's less than a month separating it, but changing it from let's have this close to the 4th of July as part of the big celebration of America. It's a dubious connection already, but okay. To we're doing this for the president's birthday. That's a moderately different kettle of fish, isn't it? Not hugely different. We're not taking a giant leap, but those are not exactly the same thing. We've also people started speculating. So Conor McGregor did the retroactive drug test failure doohickey, not because he actually failed a drug test, but because on 3 consecutive occasions he was not present for drug testers to find him. The timing of that, the way it will work out retroactively, he would theoretically be available for the White House card. I don't want to see. Just no. Do not want. Ronda Rousey has posted training footage of herself. Do not want, personally, but Ronda was a big star. And if you're going to try and do this as something of a celebration of MMA and American MMA in particular, with a little bit of a bent towards that, Ronda coming out of retirement for one special engagement fight, I could see it. I could absolutely see it. So there's that. But the lack of not just the lack of American champions in the UFC, the lack of like top end American talent is becoming more and more of a problem. The UFC's recruitment effort is not good. Partially because enough people have made enough noise about fighter pay that it's kind of bled into the consciousness, thankfully. I mean, Mike Tyson was talking about it a little bit this last week. And that sort of brought up, he's been talking about this for a while. Because it was fashionable for a period of time to ask people, hey, if MMA had been big when you were, in your athletic prime or whatnot, would you have considered this? Would you have done this? Mike Tyson's answer was no, an emphatic no, because they don't pay enough. And here what he said, I mean, you take like the top 5 MMA earners, and they don't equal, and I made like 10 times more than them. Might be a slight exaggeration there, but not by much. And bear in mind, that's with Don King screwing him over financially for giant segments of his career. But he is not wrong. So that's a thing. And it's a thing, the UFC is aware of it. But they used to, I think for a long time, they just sort of took for granted that, especially like American amateur wrestlers, would give MMA a real look. That's not really, I'm not going to say it's not a thing at all, but if you were around, like the mid to late aughts, you remember a lot of guys with collegiate wrestling backgrounds giving MMA a serious attempt. And that is just not a thing anymore. So it's something they got to fix. They've really got to fix it. I don't know how they're going to do it, but that is a problem that they must address. So, okay. Yeah, so the UFC White House, its date got moved. Rumors are swirling about big stars from 10 years ago, because that's where we are these days. But, more on that as information becomes available as usual. All right. I'm going to check the social medias, and if there's nothing immediately obvious there, I am going to do plugs and get out of here. Okay. Nope, I don't see anything new there, so plugs. See, this last Saturday, I got up early to cover WWE Crown Jewel, which was fine for a pro wrestling event. Then I covered UFC on ESPN plus 119, and I did Friday Night SmackDown before that, and because I just suck, I slept very, very little between all of that. I did not properly manage myself, which is probably going on my tombstone at this point. This week, Monday, on Damn You Hollywood, we will be reviewing Tron Ares. I regret so much. So much. We'll be reviewing that piece of crap. Then Friday, WWE SmackDown as usual, and Saturday, UFC on ESPN plus 120. We will be back here on next Sunday, or whenever I record this Sunday. Technically now it's Monday, but life. We will review UFC on ESPN plus 120 and preview UFC 321. Their event in Abu Dhabi, headlined by Tom Aspinall and Cyril Gahn. What else do we? Oh yeah, and Virna Jandiroba and Mackenzie Dern for the vacant strawweight belt. That is one of the worst title fights. One of the worst. What else is on that card? Umar Nurmagomedov and Mario Bautista is pretty good. Volkov and Almeida I don't care that much about. Rakic and Mirzakhanov I don't care that much about. That'll be informative because Rakic has had some potential for a while, but he's really got to actualize it. And Mirzakhanov is pretty darn good. Ludovic Klein and Mateusz Rembeszky should be good. The Iron Turtle, Jun Young Park, and Ikram Aliskerov will be okay. Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi, is he the one who probably shouldn't be in the UFC? I mean, Muhammad Yahya shouldn't, but I think he's another one of those guys who probably shouldn't. Yeah, there's nothing after that, really. Yeah, there's like nothing after that worth caring about. Full preview next week, so come on back for that. All right, that's it for me for this week. I'm tired, and I'm messed up. And I'm trying to get ahead of some of that for another podcast tomorrow. So thank you all very much for being here. I will see you next week. Until then, stay safe out there and continue to be well, be safe, and behave.